You have started over more times than you can count. The diet that lasted 2 weeks. The exercise routine that lasted 3. The meditation practice, the journaling, the reading habit, the earlier bedtime. Each one begun with genuine intention. Each one abandoned, eventually, with a specific mixture of guilt and resignation. And somewhere in the pattern, a conclusion formed: this is not about the habit. This is about me. Something about me makes these things impossible. Other people can sustain discipline. I cannot. This conclusion is almost certainly wrong. And understanding why requires looking carefully at what habits actually are, how they actually form, and why the dominant cultural narrative about willpower and discipline is not only unhelpful but actively counterproductive. The research on habit formation is now substantial enough to be fairly definitive on several key points. Habits are not formed through willpower. Willpower is a depleting resource, it is finite, it diminishes with use throughout the day, and it is dramatically reduced by stress, poor sleep, and low blood sugar. Building anything on willpower is building on sand. The habits that last are the ones that require the least willpower to maintain. This is why the standard advice, just commit more, try harder, want it more, is so reliably ineffective. The people who maintain good habits long-term are not people with superior willpower. They are people who have structured their environments to make good behaviors easy and bad behaviors inconvenient. The behavior follows the structure. The willpower is mostly not involved. James Clear, who wrote extensively on this, summarizes it this way: every behavior is a function of the friction involved in doing it. Reduce friction for the desired behavior and it becomes more likely. Increase friction for the undesired behavior and it becomes less likely. This works more reliably than any amount of motivation. The Lubavitcher Rebbe addressed habit from a different angle, the spiritual rather than the behavioral, and arrived at a remarkably convergent place. He taught from the Tanya that the outer self, what is called the nefesh habehamit or animal soul, is not primarily governed by reasoning or intention. It operates through pattern, repetition, and appetite. Trying to change it through willpower and good intentions is fighting it on its own terms. The Rebbe's approach was different, not to overpower the existing pattern through force of will, but to gradually replace it with a different pattern through consistent, small, repeated action. The emphasis on small is critical. The Rebbe consistently advised people not to take on too much at once. He was skeptical of dramatic transformations and sweeping resolutions. He believed that the human being is built for incremental change, that small consistent movements in the right direction accumulate into genuine transformation over time, and that large ambitious leaps almost always fail and leave the person worse off than before. This is precisely what the research confirms. The approach most associated with lasting behavior change is what researchers call implementation intentions combined with habit stacking, linking new behaviors to existing ones, making them small enough that beginning them requires almost no activation energy, and building gradually rather than dramatically. The specific sequence that works: identify the smallest possible version of the behavior you want to establish. Not the version you are proud of, the version that is so small it would be embarrassing to skip. Run this version consistently until it is automatic. Only then expand it. Most people do the opposite. They start at the version they are proud of, sustain it through willpower for a while, then collapse back to zero, then feel guilty, then start over with ambitious intentions. The Rebbe's teaching is the correction, not intensity but consistency. Not the dramatic gesture but the small repeated act. What you are building is not a behavior. You are building a self that does the behavior. And that self is built through repetition, not through intention. The question is not, how committed are you? The question is, what is the smallest version of this that you could do every day, reliably, regardless of how you feel? Find that version. Do only that. For longer than feels right. The self that does it consistently is already, slowly, the self you are trying to become.